France 24's international affairs commentator Douglas Herbert is on set with me. Doug,
Hi there, Delano.
what happens now? What are the next steps in this process?
Never a dull moment. We can start with that, right? This is a full-fledged political crisis once again in Britain. The likes of which we're all glued to our screens as we were during the whole Brexit frenzy. Look, what happens now? Until we actually hear Boris Johnson, there's still officially several options on the table, and we heard some of those being hashed out and being questioned in the Parliament. One of the big questions now is: does Boris Johnson manage to somehow pull a rabbit from the hat and manage to convince his very dwindling supporters in the party to allow him to stay on as a so-called caretaker prime minister? That is, he tenders his resignation, basically says, I'm out, I'm resigning, stepping down. But he stays on pending the outcome of a Conservative Party leadership contest because the Conservatives are the ones who have the majority in Parliament. They're the ones, if their prime minister resigns, the leader of their party steps down as prime minister, they have first dibs at getting the next prime minister. So under the scenario where you have Boris Johnson staying on, well, nothing would happen for, say, the next 3 months. It could take until the autumn, perhaps October, for that leadership contest to really be decided. By the time it gets underway in 2019, when Theresa May stepped down, it was about a 6-week process, but it didn't begin right away. So we're talking about another 3 months, which is a lot of those questions revolved around that, Delano. Like, what do you mean 3 months? How could this man, who's already, in the view of his critics and detractors, done so much damage, how can you simply allow him to stay on? So the other school of thought, and what's really perhaps the reason we're still waiting at this hour, is there is obviously a sizable faction who are pushing for him clean break. He goes now. That is, he walks out today, he resigns, submits his resignation to the Queen, and an interim prime minister, not him, not a caretaker, Boris Johnson, an interim, a new entity steps up. And that could be, we have no idea. Dominic Raab is one of the names being mooted. He's the deputy prime minister right now. He would merely be there pending, once again, the outcome of a leadership contest. But this would be an interim, as the name suggests. And then, obviously, the leader itself would be chosen from among members of the party. I'll just say the nuclear option. The nuclear option is Boris refuses to go, and he decides to call a snap election because his whole line is, I have a mandate from the 14 million Britons who elected me. I won with the largest mandate in modern times. The people love me even if you are all turning against me and stabbing me in the back. I'm going to the people. Technically, the Queen has to approve that. She could refuse on several grounds, among them the fact that there is still a so-called viable parliament. The Conservatives still have a viable majority in parliament, hence no need to call an early election. But those are the scenarios. Like I said, the last one, Johnson resorting to that nuclear ballistic option, calling an election, going straight to the people, going over the heads of his party, would be highly unorthodox. We've known Boris Johnson, however, to be unorthodox in the past.
While you were speaking, a YouGov poll came in, Doug, saying that UK Defence Minister Wallace was the clear favourite to be the next leader amongst Conservative Party members. So we will see how that evolves. The Defence Minister. I'm going to come back to you in just a second. We're going to go across to France 24's Benedict Pavio, standing by outside number 10 Downing Street. Benedict, the Prime Minister is due to speak shortly. What is he expected to say?
Boris Johnson is finally expected to announce his resignation, but will he agree to go today and that resignation is effective immediately? That is the big question mark. I'm hearing from different sources that the preferred option currently of the majority of the Conservative Party would actually be for him to step down immediately. They feel that he has done a lot of damage, not just to himself personally, but also to the Conservative Party and its future prospects. For example, whenever a next general election is called and held. So the likelihood might be that the Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab, could be that caretaker Prime Minister while the process of deciding that future leader of the Conservative Party in time for the annual party conference in the autumn, while that is decided over the summer, because it would be an internal matter for the Conservative Party, and then it would be put also to party members to help decide and elect that new leader. A leader who, of course, will have to deal with things like an independence referendum being proposed by Nicola Sturgeon in Scotland, all the problems of the Northern Ireland Protocol, and the problems with the relationship with the EU. And this is why this is, of course, being watched here domestically, but also across the EU and indeed across the world. And one person that is hot-footing it back to London is somebody who's been extraordinarily silent over the last 48 hours, and that is the Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, who I understand is cutting short a foreign trip at the G20 and returning to London.
Benedict, thank you very much for that. Benedict Pavio reporting there from outside number 10.